Okay, so we're going to get started. It's now 7 o'clock. Thank you so much for everyone for being here, everyone who is attending as a guest, and also to our panelists. And this is just going to be an introduction to National ASDA leadership positions. We have a lot of National ASDA leaders here who can help answer your questions for a panel. So if anytime a question comes up, feel free to put your question in the chat or put your name in the chat and we can call on you and we'll get to the agenda, but there'll be plenty of time to talk to us one-on-one and also learn everything there is to know about National ASDA. So just as introductions of who we have tonight, starting with Joe.
Sorry, I had a demask. Hi, everyone. My name is Joe. I'm a fourth-year dental student at the Stony Brook School of Dental Medicine on Long Island, New York, and I serve as your current National ASDA Speaker of the House.
Thanks, Joe. Myself, I'm Michelle. I'm the District 2 trustee, and handing it over now to Seb.
My name is Sebastian. I am the Council and Advocacy Chair for ASDA and also the Columbia Chapter President.
Thanks, Seb. And Sydney?
Thanks, Michelle. I'm Sydney Shapiro. I'm a fourth year at Columbia, and I am the ASDA President, and I previously served as Council on Professional Issues Chair and Associate.
Thanks so much, Sydney. And on the next slide, we also have some special guests with us tonight, but just so you know how the night is going to run, these are our District 2 leaders, so making New York and New Jersey very proud. We are going to briefly review just the structure of National ASDA and then go into the three of our specific roles. Then we're transitioned to a panel and then to a networking session to end the night. And that's what our goal is. As a special guest we have here tonight, Casey, do you want to introduce yourself?
Hi everyone, I'm Casey White. I'm a current fourth year at Pitt and I'm the District 3 trustee. Before doing that, I served as the District 3 secretary last year.
Thanks, Casey. Christina? I know she's on the call, but Christina is the District 4 trustee, and Casey, Christina, and I work together for MAAA, if anyone of you has attended that this year.
Yes, thank you, Michelle. Yes, sorry, I just got back from school, and it's Central Time for you. But yeah, so we put together MAAA a couple weekends ago, so that was nice to see some familiar faces here tonight.
Thanks, Christina. And Colton?
Hi, yeah, I'm Colton Cannon. I'm the District 8 trustee. I'm a second year at Minnesota, so it's nice to meet you all.
Now I'm handing it over to Joe.
All right, so I'm going to kind of go over what opportunities there are for you all to get involved at the national level of ASDA. So I just kind of wanted to start out with this slide because chances are if you're here thinking about going for something in National ASDA, chances are that you probably have already become a member of ASDA and been involved in some way or capacity, probably at your local level, maybe at your district level. So I just want to get into a little bit of what else there is. So we can go to the next slide. So there's actually a lot that is available for National ASDA positions. You may think of immediately the positions on the right, which is the Board of Trustees. So President, 2 Vice Presidents, Speaker, and the 11 district trustees. But there is a whole host of council and committees, and many of them have availabilities that you can apply for. So we have a council on advocacy that has a chair and legislative coordinators that are broken up here on the right. I'm using my mouse and realizing that you can't see it. We also have a council on communications, which has a chair and 2 associates and 2 video production managers, a council on membership, professional issues, and then some other councils, including the editorial board, which also has a lot of people from individual chapters across the country, and some of the other committees like on sessions and governance, which is something that I serve on, that are only from made up of Board of Trustees members. So there's a lot of ways to get involved, and this next slide is really about why it pays to be involved. And I kind of broke it down into these 4 things. These are just things that I have kind of learned over my 4 years, close to 4 years of being involved. The first is networking opportunities. So whether or not you're a first year or a fourth year or anywhere in between, you will learn, and you probably have learned it's in some point, that networking is everything, and that meeting dentists from your community and from around the country makes a big difference in your future. Whether or not you want to work with them, whether or not it means that they may know somebody who can help you find a career in the future, it's not all about who you know, but that definitely plays a factor into it. And it's not, when I say it's who you know, it's not, backroom deals that are getting you into things that you shouldn't or things that you're not qualified for. It's these connections that you make that genuinely people understand your interests, people understand what you are passionate about. They see you in action, maybe at a lobby day event or just at a meeting that they're giving a speech on, and you go up to them and you talk to them, and they start to really understand who you are, and they keep you in the back of their mind so that when an opportunity arises, or when maybe you're applying to a residency program that they have friends that go to, they can speak on your behalf and they can say, hey, I know this person is more than just a dental student. They've gotten involved in ASDA, they've become very passionate about these issues, and they're a standout person. The next is professional development. So when I was an undergraduate, I was involved heavily in my chapter, in my school's pre-dental society. And that was kind of the leeway for me getting involved and being as involved as I was as a pre-dental, and helping me to get involved in dental school and kind of setting the precedent. And I consider ASDA basically to be that for every dental student. You can definitely go about it on your own, but ASDA gives you the keys to succeed, and you all know that, being already part of ASDA, and being part of National ASDA and putting yourself out there to maybe take on that role or apply for that role helps with your professional development even more so. And I know that especially for the younger members of the Board of Trustees, as in like the younger class years, like Colton, like he's already a second year and he's a district trustee, and that's going to help him immensely. And I'm sure he's probably learned a lot, as I learned a lot being a programming chair last year, about what it takes to be in charge of a team of people, to coordinate events, to work logistics, because that's going to be part of your everyday, whether or not you're a private practice dentist, whether or not you're working in academia. You have to learn how to be a professional, manage people, and manage your time effectively. The next one is the sense of community. So understanding that you're not in it alone and that others are there looking out for you. Obviously, you have your community at your individual school, but there's another level to being involved at the national position. And I think this Board of Trustees, especially the current one, who we've only met and probably will ever meet once as a whole in person at this last annual session, understands that community is very vital to success. And it's been very interesting to try to build that sense of community online. And we've, like everybody, have hit roadblocks, but I think we've overcome a lot, and we've learned a lot from each other, and we've learned a lot from this digital environment. But just knowing that beyond your school, maybe even beyond your state or your district, that other dental students are dealing with the same exact problems that you are, that you may think that this problem is so unique to my school and that I must be the only one that has to deal with this issue. And you're surprised, and I'm always surprised when I go to these national meetings and get involved and meet other national leaders, what others deal with and how common it really is. And the last one is leadership experience, and this one just kind of ties in with everything else. I know they're all kind of somewhat similar, but learning how to be the go-to person and how to create a highly effective team. As a dentist, a lot of us are probably still going to want to go into private practice, whether or not that means as a group or as a solo practice. And you're the leader of your team, and the lessons that you will learn being involved in National ASDA will undoubtedly be transferable to leading an effective team once you're a dentist and you're in charge of, whether it be students as an academician or as a managing dentist of your staff. So it gives you the tools to learn how to be a leader. And you don't have to be a natural born leader. ASDA does an amazing job, especially for national leadership positions, about training you how to continue your leadership development. You don't have to have it all figured out in order to apply for these positions from the get-go. So the next slide. And this is, I think, Michelle, right?
Sorry, I'm muted, of course. So just going into what the application timeline looks like, good news, the applications are open. You can visit asdanet.org and sign in with all of your credentials. and basically see what you want to apply for. And on the website, we're going to go through it briefly tonight, but you'll see position descriptions, you'll see position roles and responsibilities, and make sure that you're signing up for something that you can commit to. So you can apply to more than one spot if you're not applying to the Board of Trustees. You'll be asked some general questions, submit a headshot, submit a CV, and that will help students who are voting on you know and kind of get a sense of who you are. So December 13th, put this date in your calendar, except if you're running for trustee, because that is when the applications will be due and they will be announced in mid-January.
Okay, so let's say you have submitted your application, good to go. What happens next, right? So if you're running for council or one of the committees, the Board of Trustees, so the trustees as well as the EC get to vote at their January Board of Trustees meeting, and usually by after. Or can you guys hear me? Okay.
Your mic is a little off.
Okay.
Okay. Oh.
1 second.
Can you guys hear me now? Okay, awesome. So let me just use these headphones. All right, so let's say you've applied and good to go. You've submitted the application. So what happens next, right? So if you are running for a council chair or a council or committee position, the Board of Trustees chooses those members during their January Board of Trustees meeting. So basically, usually after Martin Luther King Day, late January, early February, that's when you receive those results. For EC, it's a little bit different. So if you're running for president or co-VP, or Speaker of the House, it's a little bit more complicated than that, right? Because these are the kind of the national like exec positions. So what happens is that usually we meet in person and during annual session. This year, obviously, it'll be a little bit different. So that we're working out the kinks on that. But you'll basically get to give a speech to address all of those in attendance. So usually this is like over 500 people to let them know why you think you're the best candidate for that position. Then you'll be able to caucus at a combined district caucus. And I believe, for example, districts 1, 2, and 3 may be together, 4, 5, and 6 may be together. And then they have their own sort of caucus tradition of how to ask you questions. And so it's kind of like a round robin of going to different district rooms and answering those questions. And then you'll be able to answer a series of questions in front of the House of Delegates as well. And how voting happens, it's not via the Board of Trustees, it's actually by the House of Delegates. So each chapter gets to have a voice on who the EC members are. And the winners are announced during annual session by the speaker.
So speaking briefly about being a trustee, and Casey, Christina, and Colton, those are all C's, feel free to hop in at any point. Basically, why do I like being a Board of Trustee member? It's really that if you want to put on meaningful programming for your district, you can do that. You have the ability to help out younger students who want to see something. If a bunch of my committee members came to me and they're like, you know, we want something on finance. We did a webinar on finance. A lot more came said we want something on student debt. So, you know, you get to put on very meaningful programming. You get to work with amazing other trustees nationwide and kind of meet people from all over. It's a great way to get involved just nationally, hone your leadership skills, and have a say in how the organization moves forward.
Sorry. So now we're going to go into kind of the roles of each of some of the big positions like trustee, speaker, and councils. So this is speaking on behalf of my position in terms of Speaker of the House. So one of the first responsibilities is that you attend all the Board of Trustees meetings and you ensure that the parliamentary procedure within those meetings is being followed as it should. Usually the chair of the meetings, which is Sydney as president, has a very good handle on that. But in case there's any questions or just kind of technical things, you're there to lend a hand and give your input. You complete learning modules about parliamentary procedure, getting more in depth as you go on throughout the year so that you're ready to serve as speaker at the annual session at the end of your term. You also serve as a member of the governance committee, and you use that time to read over any and all of the ASDA bylaws and standing rules of order. And you, as the speaker, get to make editorial changes as you deem appropriate to those documents. You also then get to take part in a parliamentary procedure training in January of your term, right before the House of Delegates occurs, and usually in February or March. You then also get to plan and help execute overseeing the entire ASDA annual House of Delegates meetings. At the end of your term, you get to oversee all the votes that occur towards changing our bylaws, our rules, and our orders. And like Seb said, you get to oversee the entire election process of all new ASDA EC members. And one thing that is special to note, that if you were at our 2020 annual session back in March, right before COVID, you will remember that at next year's annual session, which will be in 2021, which we'll talk about a little bit later on, the speaker will become part of the EC. So next year's speaker will become part of the executive committee, along with the president and 2 vice presidents and the executive director. And they'll have a bit more responsibility in terms of overseeing the day-to-day operations of ASDA, like the current EC does. So the role will become a little bit more involved than it has in years past. But I think that it'll be a great transition to have the speaker on EC to kind of help with the day-to-day and also lighten the burden of the president and VPs who take on a lot during that time, that year, if they're serving in that role. So the next slide.
Thanks, Joe. Just speaking about district trustee, you have on the right side, and this is again taken from ASDANet, the roles and responsibilities. And we spoke a little bit about it, but basically you're in charge of your district, which includes between 5 and 7 chapters, depending which district you're representing. So you need to make sure you're on top of the schools in those districts and in contact with the presidents on a pretty frequent basis, as well as doing your national duties, sitting on the National Board of Trustees. We've had meetings about once a month. Some of them are about 90 minutes and some are multi-day. Then again, creating district programming, and it's really what you make it. I know our district, and I'm going to show a slide, has done a lot of programming, so my time commitment is roughly an hour a day. So know that if you want to do this position, it's completely doable, but it's also very time intensive. So this is my leadership structure, how we have in District 2. You see on the left side all of the different committees, and we have a committee-based system, so there's chairs and associates. It depends what district you're in, because here's District 3 and 4, and they have very similar yet slightly different cabinet structures. So it's kind of up to you how you want to structure it within certain guidelines. And then again, it's what you make it. So here's a pretty represented snapshot of what we've been doing since April, when we kind of transitioned over, and we've had a lot of events. You can see multiple per week. So you stay busy if you want to stay busy, but you really get to put on meaningful programming content for the people in your district. And that gives me at least a sense of fulfillment.
Okay, so now we're going to talk about the roles and responsibilities of a council member. I'll be the first to be very honest and admit that I am much more familiar with council and advocacy over the other councils. So I try to keep the slide a little bit more general to tailor for all the other committees and councils. So if you're going to be the council chair, you'll be working very heavily with ASDA staff to coordinate national events. So that's webinars, things like Advocacy Month or Wellness Month, any social media content or competitions. Basically, you kind of approach ASDA staff and say, hey, I think it would be a really good idea if we had a session on, LGBT rights, right? And then you can work with them to see what ASDA can do and what sort of programming we can do to tailor that. You will also be leading any recurring meetings. I know for advocacy, we have monthly meetings. We facilitate that discussion and then finalize any decision. So it's very pivotal to be able to synthesize what everybody's saying during that conversation and make sure that you have those take-home points during every meeting, as well as all the follow-ups. And lastly, you're that final stamp of approval to different projects. And I say projects because it could really be anything. You're that person that says, okay, this is good to go. Let's finalize it. Let's move on to the next thing. If you are a council member, you will be part of a council, right? So you'll be leading and guiding chapter leaders within your region. So I know for advocacy, for example, my legislative coordinators are in charge of certain schools and chapters. within their districts, and they are able to have that one-on-one connection with the legislative liaisons in different chapters to make sure that the programming in the chapters is high quality. You'll be able, again, you'll be part of those recurring meetings, so you'll be able to vote on major decisions and produce valuable content. We all write for the ASDA blog, for Contour. We are all involved with social media, that sort of thing. And again, I'll just speak to advocacy, but if organization like the ADA or AAPD come to us to sign on to a letter that they want to send to Congress, we have a discussion within the council and we vote whether to approve or to reject that proposal. As well, I think it was already mentioned that all council members are able to attend national conferences, virtual conferences, and any council such as fall and spring council.
So this is just a little slide I put together just to kind of give, you know, a little brief overview of my history, just as to kind of to say that regardless of what level of experience you have now and what you think you're able to achieve, you should always strive to continue to be involved and don't be afraid to throw your hat in the ring and follow what your dreams are. So I unarguably was very involved, but I was mostly at my local level for, you know, the first 3 years. That's me with my then board and my chapter level when I was elected to be chapter president. And then that same year I was serving, this was last year, that I was serving as one of the District 2 programming chairs. And it was my responsibility to oversee our District 2 annual meeting, which was last September up in Lake George. And it was, I think, a great success. We had an amazing time. We had a lot of people there, and it taught me a lot about being a leader. And at that point in time, I had the decision of whether or not I wanted to run for trustee when I would be going up against Michelle, or whether or not I wanted to run for something else. You know, I had applied in previous years to be on councils and committees. I unfortunately, you know, didn't get a position at that time. And then I thought about, you know, I'd already been thinking about the speaker role, and I kind of made my decision at that meeting to run for speaker. And, you know, some people that I told, friends and close confidants, were surprised and weren't really happy about that. And they thought that I was going to be a shoo-in to be trustee and that I should just run for that. And because I know that they thought that I would definitely win that. And, you know, I had different aspirations, and I didn't run for speaker because I thought it was a better position than trustee. I ran for it because it's what I really wanted to, and I was genuinely interested in it since the time that I had gone to my first annual session back in 2019. And it was maybe a little bit of a long shot because I didn't have national experience, and that can sometimes be a hindrance, especially when you're up against somebody who is. But I think I've done a pretty good job thus far, and I know this has been a challenging year nonetheless with COVID and having to do things virtually. But it just goes to show that if you really want something, continue to push for it. You may or may not get it. Not everything that you put your mind to, you're always going to be able to achieve in the time that you have, especially in ASDA as a dental student. You only have 4, sometimes 3 years to accomplish these goals. But there's always something that you will find in the roles that you have, and you never really know whether or not you'll how you'll succeed unless you try. So I'm very happy to show this lineage because it proves that you can do things if you really are set your mind to it and you're genuine about wanting to be in those positions.
Great. Thank you so much, Joe, for sharing your experience. So we're about to move on, but just showing you that going forward, National ASDA will be hosting a meet and greet, so more information to come about that. And, you know, just reach out to the council members and board of trustees to ask about their experience and submit your application. So quickly, and I know we're a little behind time, so I'm just going to breeze through these if that's okay with everyone else. Virtual leadership conference is coming up very soon in the next few weeks. The deadline to register is November 2nd. So contact your chapter president or your district trustee and make sure you get registered for that. Our District 2 meeting, gotta have a plug, is January 9th through 10th, and registration will go live next week. So again, contact your chapter president. District 3, Casey as well. Her meeting will be January 29th through 30th, so contact her. And also the same for Christina. So Districts 2, 3, and 4, get excited for your conferences. And then briefly, annual session will be held virtually this year, and it will be free of cost. So it'll be a governance-based session, and hopefully we can all learn a lot and elect our new national leaders. State and National Lobby Day will be coming up as well, so keep an eye out for that, where you can talk to your representatives. So we're now at the panel. I already see a great question in the chat, so we also have Sydney and Colton that I'm adding to this right now. But basically, we are also all members of councils. So to take that first question, I think it would be nice to go around and share our council experience also specifically. So the question is, I have interest, but I'm not exactly sure what position I'd like to apply for. Can you talk about the favorite part of your position? So I know I sit on the council for membership, and everyone else will kind of say theirs soon. I love council and membership, love it, love it. Honestly did apply for that before trustee, and I didn't get it, but that's okay, because keep going. You never know what is better and in store for you. So why I love sitting on the council for membership. Council membership, we get to create programming and create resources both for non-auto-enroll schools to help increase engagement in ASDA, but also for auto-enroll schools to help them continue membership engagement and make sure that we're doing things that our members want to see. So we've done a lot this year with making virtual guides, for example, Virtual Fever Week, because a lot of chapters nationwide were saying, oh my gosh, we normally do a great fever week in person. How do we do this online? Same thing with Virtual Vendor Fair Guide. Helped a lot of chapter presidents and chapters navigate that type of situation. So that's a little brief overview of what we do on council and membership. So Christina, would you like to go next?
Yes. So in addition to, like Michelle explained, as you know, when you're a trustee, you also serve on a council. And the council that I serve on is the Council on Professional Issues, which was something that I was interested in, but kind of got encouraged to apply for trustee. So it was perfect that I could kind of fulfill both roles that I was looking to grow in. The Council on Professional Issues, it's a council that honestly has just become incredibly dynamic in the past year because its role is just continuously evolving and new issues are coming up that affect dental students. Just, I mean, it feels like every month it's something else that we should change our focus on. And so this year has been a lot of revising what exactly COPE, which is what we call it, what COPE is responsible for. And I think the question was my favorite part of my position was this. It was probably midway through our term. It's crazy to think that we're past midway, but when myself and the chair of COPE looked at like national holidays for the rest of the year, and we thought to ourselves, okay, well, we have half of a term left. So what is the one thing we're going to focus on? Because, you know, there's, for example, Breast Cancer Awareness Month. There is Hispanic Heritage Month. There is, I mean, you name it, every month, there's something going on. And so we really wanted to focus on something this year with the rest of our term. So we proposed to the board this Black Lives Matter initiative, and that's going to be, it's in the works. So stay tuned and follow dental students if you haven't already. And so Allison, my advice to you, if you are interested in COPE, other than of course reaching out with any questions, is it's basically, I don't want to call it the miscellaneous role, but it's kind of dealing with the like your mentality, what keeps dental students sane throughout the year, you know, what helps a student become the most well-rounded clinician, and building off of that. And so maybe I'm biased because I serve on the council, but I feel like the direction of the council is really determined by the council itself in addition to the board. So I know that was a pretty broad answer, but I'm happy to chat about other plans we've had throughout the year if you'd like.
Thanks, Christina. And Sydney, as a past COPE associate and chair, do you want to add on anything about COPE? Because I know a lot of people on this call are very interested.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. So when I was first Copy Associate and then Chair, our main focus was ASDA Outreach. The National Outreach Initiative has been started, I think that was in 2017 or 2018. So we focused a lot on outreach. And my favorite part about that was getting to develop plans for something that will affect all dental students. So I loved seeing dental students come together as a community across the country, giving back to their communities, sharing how they're providing community service around their schools. So that was my favorite part of that. And also last year we revised the ASDA Code of Ethics. And again, you know, having the ability to, your work is going to impact dental students, and keeping dental students' best interests in mind as you do your work, for me, has been my favorite part.
Thanks, Sydney. Moving on to council advocacy, maybe Colton followed by Seb.
Yeah, I can speak a little bit on the Council of Advocacy. So I have the great fortune to serve on it with Sebastian. I personally love it. I really enjoy it. It's kind of where my passion aligns. So when you think about the councils, it's really, you know, what excites you and what your interests are, kind of where that takes you. The Council on Advocacy really allows you to work at huge issues that face our profession, and work on some of those legislative affairs issues, and more the political sided aspects of dentistry, and a little bit more of the legal aspects. So it's super fun. I really enjoy it. And you really get to change the profession long term and really do high level impactful decisions, and really kind of, you know, enact some of the questions and some of the issues that students have about these issues.
Yeah, to add on to that, I think one common thing that I've heard from people is, you know, I don't know enough about legislation. I don't know enough about like dental specific policy. I think when we say like, oh, if this is kind of your thing, what we mean to say is if you're into politics, if you're into like policy making, if you're into standing up for, you know, others and things like that, then this would be the council for you. As far as, and what I would actually recommend is, you know, just jump right into it, you know? You learn as you go. It's not like I knew all about, you know, licensure the moment I stepped into this role. I didn't. But slowly but surely, you kind of jump on board and you start learning. I would say from my geeky side of things, I would say that my favorite thing has been pulling data from different chapters as to what their strengths and weaknesses are as far as advocacy, and how we at the national level can tailor what we do at the national level to best fit all chapters and their weaknesses. I would say on the fun side of things, doing Advocacy Month and working with ASDA staff and my LCs on Advocacy Month has been a blast. So I cannot wait for those events to start happening in November.
Yeah, and if you missed last night's event, you should be able to see the recording. Yep, on ASDANet. Casey, again, District 3 trustee, she actually sits on a council that is appointed from the Board of Trustees, but I want to give her a chance to talk about her favorite part of being a trustee.
Thanks, Michelle. So I am on the Committee on Sessions, which, as Michelle said, is limited to trustees and EC and staff. So what that position entails is we work on planning the annual session every year. So if you're interested in trustee and you like event planning, that might be for you. I know if I wasn't a dentist, I would be a wedding planner. So it kind of like suits me. I like it. So one of my favorite parts about trustee is really just seeing how the association functions at the national level, and also working with all the people throughout the country to keep our association moving forward. So especially during COVID, that's been like a really big part of what we've been doing this year. And it's just been very rewarding to see it kind of trickle down all the way to our districts and to our chapters. And I also really like keeping like in contact with all the chapters in my district and just building those connections throughout our district. I know someone from my district yesterday was like, you know, our chapter hasn't been as strong during COVID, but I really look forward to all our district things because it really makes me feel like I'm not alone. And I think to me that just like embodies everything I love about being a trustee. So if you're interested in it, I'd love to talk to you about it. And I think it's a great role to have.
Thanks, Casey. I don't see any other questions in the chat right now. So if there are no more questions, oh, there's one more question. And then we'll take this question and then we'll move on to our networking breakout rooms portion. where you can individually talk to all of us. But so question is it important to serve as an associate on a council before a chair?
You want me to take that one, Michelle?
Please, thank you.
Yeah. So Sebastian did not serve on council on advocacy as an associate prior to serving as chair. I did serve as an associate on COPE prior to serving as chair. I think there are pros and cons of both. It's not a requirement at all. For me, I was, happy to have those 2 years on COPE and also first be an associate, get to understand what the council is, what our roles, responsibilities are, and then how, what I could bring to the table as chair. So it's definitely not a requirement. And also when you're applying in the application, you can apply, I think, up to 3 positions. So you can select like COPE chair and then COPE associate if you would like to do that.
Okay, thank you so much, Sydney. So I'm going to now open the breakout rooms. So we're going to have 7 breakout rooms since there are 7 national leaders present. I am going to keep the rooms open for 4 minutes, scramble them, and then open again. So bear with me if anything happens, and if you do end up in the same group with someone again, then hopefully make a new friend. But with that, I am now going to open all